Okay, there we are. Cool. Welcome, everyone. Happy to have you here at ServerlessDays Amsterdam Meetup for the April session. Today, I am joined by our brand new Orga team member, Andra. Hi.
Hi.
Hi, Andra.
Hey.
Would you like to maybe just say like a couple of words about yourself, who you are, what you do?
Yes, sure. Thanks, Ian. I'm Andra. I moved to the Netherlands for 1.5 years ago to follow my dream job to work with AWS at a company called Sentia. We are an advanced consulting partner with AWS, and yeah, it's really challenging and nice to work there. And I'm really happy to volunteer because Serverless Days Meetup was one of the first meetups that I've actually ever participated in. So yeah,
Cool.
I'm happy to be here.
We're happy to have you. Thank you so much. And all of you out there, if you want to help us out, be part of the Orga team, maybe host one of the meetups yourself or speak, then you can reach us at ServerlessDAMs on Twitter, or join our Discord, or message us on Twitch or YouTube. So without further ado, let's start the Meetup online edition. So it's still online. We're still here. It's been a year. We're still hanging in there, trying to do our best. Our meetups happen usually on the first Wednesday of the month, so that will be an easy way for you to remember. Every first Wednesday of the month at 6 p.m. is Serverless Days time. And today we will welcome a very international, some very international guests actually. So we will have Ashir, who's a software engineer at Mindfare Solutions, talking about how to build serverless workflows using Azure Logic apps. We'll have our usual break in between, and then Tatenda, who's an AWS community builder and organizers of AWS Cdk Day, I think in South Africa, if I'm not mistaken. He will talk to us. Yeah, sorry. Thanks, Andra. He will talk to us about how to build serverless solutions with AWS Cdk. So that's going to be really exciting. And we're going to end at around 22. 8, and we're going to hang out on Discord for some more chats and drinks probably afterwards. So a couple of house rules. So we'll be live streaming this, and you can join the conversation on Discord. So you can join us there. Our speakers will, I hope, hang out there. I think I saw Ashirat on Discord already. So if you want to chat and have more questions after the talk, you can join us there. And also, obviously, we also have a COC that we ask you to follow. I think it can be summarized as, don't just be nice, don't be a poopy head. But still, please take a look at the COC just to make sure that you understand and agree. So without further ado, I think this is the slide that I'm not going to show. We're going to go back to our first talk. So I would like to welcome Ashir to the stage. Hello, how are you doing, sir?
Hi, Leanne. Hi, Andra. I'm doing good. How are you?
Fantastic. It's the end of the day. I already have a glass of wine, so everything's good. So Ashir, I just wanted to really briefly talk to you about how we got to know each other, because you messaged me about Serverless Days because you wanted to start something yourself. You want to tell us about that?
Yes, sure, Leanne. We got in touch in the Slack channel of Serverless Days. So, I wanted to start Serverless Days chapter at my region since a very long time. I've been trying to follow around with people since last year's October, I guess. But things were getting really tough. So Leanne came into the picture and helped me a lot setting up my Serverless Days chapter in my region. So thank you, Leanne. And people, we host bi-weekly. Yes, Leanne. So we do host bi-weekly sessions. So if you are interested to host a talk on serverless, anything on serverless, just drop me a mail or just send me a message or Twitter.
Awesome. Cool. So are you ready for your talk?
Sure.
Awesome. Then I think we can just skedaddle off, and Stace, who's our lady behind the scenes for today, will do the thing And yes, I will remove myself. And Ashirwad, please take it away.
Sure. Thank you, Leanne. So hello, everyone. So this is talk for the day. That's on building serverless workflows using Azure Logic Apps. So before diving deeper into the talk, just a brief introduction about myself. So I'm Ashirwad, and I work as a software engineer at Mindful Solutions, as Leanne had previously mentioned. Most of my work is on ASP.NET Core, and I just make web APIs using ASP.NET Core. Apart from that, I'm an Azure Certified Associate Developer. Leaving about my work profile, I am also a community organizer at ServerlessDays Amsterdam, Ctk Forums, which is one of the oldest developer community in my region. And finally, there's one more community that I manage, this Azure Developer Community Bhubaneswar. So just in case, if you ever wanted to host anything on Azure, then just drop me a message, and you can reach out to me using my Twitter handle, this @Ashirwad_1998. Alternatively, you can also drop me a message by going to my LinkedIn profile. You can just copy this link and paste it over there. It will just redirect you to my profile. You can just send me a message there. I do blog a few times a month in my site, that's Code with Ashirwad, and that's my GitHub repo. You'll find all the codes that I ever use in any of my demos or any of my talks over there. So let's look at the agenda for the talk. We are going to start the talk by discussing about what is a workflow. Workflow has to be there because that's in the topic, right? The topic is itself building workflows, serverless workflows using Azure Logic Apps. Then we'll briefly discuss about what is Logic App. Then we'll discuss about some of the components that we need to know to build our first Logic App. So some of these components are actions, connectors, and triggers. Then we are going to have some demos. Obviously, if you have a lot of theory, a lot of just talk, it's going to be boring. So we are going to have a lot of demos in this talk. So then we are going to have a problem statement, which we are going to solve. And finally, we are going to have a Q&A session. So that's all for the agenda of the talk. Let's get started. So what are workflows? I think you people must have an idea by looking at the images there. So a workflow can be any business process or a sequence of tasks that produce a specific result. Well, that's for the definition. Well, what would be a workflow in a layman's term? Just imagine you wanted to cook an omelet. What should you do? You'd follow a set of instructions to make your omelet, right? But you're going to get some eggs. Then you're going to break the egg and just put it in a bowl or a container, put some salt, mix it around, put some onions, tomatoes, and then put a pan on the stove and fry it out, put your omelet over there and cook it for 5 minutes or 10, up to you. And once your omelet is ready, you're done with the omelet and you can just eat it out. So here, making an omelet is a workflow. So any business task, whichever you want to achieve a result, is a workflow. So it can also be a task as simple as posting a tweet. To post a tweet, you need to sign into your Twitter account, then write up a tweet and click on post to post it. So that's again a workflow. So in this talk, we are going to discuss about building serverless workflows using Logic App. So what is Logic App? So I think you people must have an idea what is a Logic App, right? If you go by the definition provided by Microsoft, a Logic App is a cloud service that helps you schedule, automate, and orchestrate a task or business process, which helps you integrate with different data sources or different SaaS offering of softwares which have their API endpoints and expose it as a connector. So this is what we say more of a technical definition to a Logic App. If you want it in a simpler terms, it's a low-code solution to build workflows. So these are some. Let's discuss some of the features of Logic Apps. It's an iPaaS. Now, what's an iPaaS? Again, a new term, right? So an iPaaS is nothing but a suite of cloud services which helps you develop, execute, and orchestrate or integrate a flow of tasks to achieve a result. So a Logic App is an iPaaS. It's like an integration service, you can say, which connects multiple sources. So it's more like you have some data on your SharePoint list, and you have some data on the SQL Server, and you want to establish a connection between them to enable data transfer. So you can use a logic app over here to enable this data transfer without writing a lot of code and putting in a lot of effort to, build the whole code base, perform the unit tests, and get the product. You can just use logic app and get it done in a few seconds using a few connectors. So I've been using the word connectors a lot. So let me tell you, people, we are going to briefly discuss about connectors later in one of the slides. So one of the features to use logic app is it has a per action billing. So it's not like you have to pay any upfront cost to use a logic app. You will be billed only for the actions that your logic app runs. Suppose your logic app has 5 tasks, and each task is actually an action, and action is nothing but a task. So the number of tasks or the number of actions you execute or your logic app executes will be directly related to your final billing amount. These are highly scalable. As I told you, we are going to make serverless solutions, right? Serverless workflows using Azure Logic Apps. So these two components make it a serverless offering. It is one of the oldest services offered by Azure. So logic apps are highly scalable. They give you per action billing. So it's like you have micro billing thing over here. You have more than 200 plus connectors. Again, don't worry about what are connectors as of now. We'll be discussing briefly in a dedicated slide for that. So we have multiple connectors for it. Like you name a service like Twitter, SharePoint, or else something like an S3 bucket. We have connectors for everything. You can integrate surface from different endpoints or data sources. These are highly extensible. Suppose you're working on an SaaS offering of your own, and you don't have a connector for that, and you want to integrate in your workflow. How do you do that? Will you not use the logic apps because it doesn't have a connector to connect with your data source to perform the rest of the workflow? No, because you can create your own custom connector using logic apps. So again, you can just write it once and reuse it often. You can just get the ARM template. You can get the ARM template from the logic app and then create it using that in a different region or else in a different tenant. These are it's easy to use design tool. It has a very easy to use graphical editor, in a way you can say that. There's something which we call logic app designer, using which you can just drag and drop things and make your workflows. It's really easy. So we'll be seeing that in the demo. So before diving deeper, you need to know a few terminologies about logic app. One term that I used before getting into this slide was connectors. So what are connectors? So a connector is nothing but a component that provides as an interface or a wrapper to an external service. So here an external service can be anything. Any service which exposes us REST APIs, endpoints to work around with it. Like Twitter has its own API, and using which you can post tweets or else get updates, get notifications. Similar to the APIs offered by other Azure services like Blob storage, or else like Service Bus, Storage Queue, or else the weather API of MSN. There are many things. Even Outlook exposes us APIs. So any of the APIs that are there, any of the services that offer their or exposes their APIs can have their own connectors in logic apps. So connectors are like wrappers. So these are components using which we are going to build our serverless workflows. Again, connectors are components, right? But they have a subdivision among themselves. So a connector can contain two things. One is a trigger and another is an action. So what are triggers? If you people have tried AWS Lambda or Azure Function apps, then you must be aware of triggers, right? Triggers are things which starts off an event. Whenever an event happens, you want to start off something, you want to execute some chunk of code or do some task. These are the things that make this magical thing happen, to build event-driven applications. So connectors come with triggers and actions. So what are actions? Actions are nothing but tasks. So that's all about triggers and actions. There's one thing that I'd like you people to note, that not all connectors have triggers. but every connector has an action. Now there's one more thing. This is what we say. This is something that really comes in handy, but it doesn't come into a trigger or an action. Actually, it's a kind of an action, but how do you phrase it? It's something that's really useful. So these control workflow are kind of built-in actions that helps you modify the flow of your business process or else your workflows. Suppose you want to perform a certain set of actions. If a certain condition happens, you can use a control workflow like an condition. Or else if you're getting array of results from an action and you want to process it out by looping through it and perform some other task, then you can use an for each control. So these controls are nothing but our normal if-else conditions, or else like for each loop that we have in our programming languages. So connectors, we did discuss briefly about connection there. So connectors there. So again, connectors are of two types. One is a built-in, and the other is a managed. So built-in connectors are natively available in Logic App. You don't need to create. You won't create an API connection if you're using these built-in connectors. And these connectors are used for multiple purposes, like you can create an connector which runs on a schedule. Like you don't need to define a cron expression like you have to define in an timer triggered Azure function, but you'll have to define the frequency and the time in which you need to make these connectors run. Then you can also call Azure function from your Logic App. Isn't that really good? That's one of my favorite features of Logic Apps. You can also nest Logic App inside in Logic App. That's another thing. So there's another kind of connector, that's managed connector. One is a built-in, there's another that's managed. So these are developed and managed by Microsoft. These provide you trigger and actions for accessing cloud services, on-premise system, or both. So the advantage that we get with a Logic App is that not only you get access to sources or services that are available on the internet, you also get access to the systems or services that are running in your on-prem servers. Suppose you have a SQL server that is running on your on-prem system and you don't want to put it on cloud due to some reason, and still you want to manage a workflow using a Logic App, you can absolutely do that. So there are connectors to do that. So as I told you, we have support for more than 200 plus. If I reckon it, it was more than 390 connectors that were there when I last checked in. So some of the connectors are for Office 365, Azure Blob Storage, SQL Server, Dynamics, Salesforce, SharePoint, and there are a lot more. There's one connector for 2 I'm sorry. So let's look at some examples of built-in connectors. So one of the built-in connectors is a schedule. The next is an HTTP connector. The third is a request, and one for API management. I'm sorry. So what's the schedule connector? What does it do? Schedule connector lets a Logic App run on a particular schedule. It's more like you can define when should a Logic App run. Like, should it run every 3 seconds, every hour, every 5 minutes? Now, coming to the HTTP connector, it allows you to specify an endpoint. Consider it more like an HTTP triggered function. If you wanted to create create a HTTP triggered function which would work every time an action happened, or every time someone actually sent a request to that particular endpoint and it would run, like an webhook, then this particular connector would come handy for you. Then there's another kind of connector, that's a request connector. So request connector is a really good one, to be honest, because it lets you build APIs without actually writing any code. You can just parse in all the data that you wanted to do it in your request body, or else in your header, or pass it in the whole payload, in the request payload, and it will be able to fetch it out, then perform an action, and using a response action will be able to give you back a response. Then there's this Azure API management connector. So this API management connector, triggers action defined by your own API that you manage and publish using Azure API management. Now coming to the managed connectors. So there are many managed connectors, but a few of them are listed over here. So using these connectors, you can just perform CRUD operations in your SQL Server, or else if you want to pick up and service bus, pick up and message from a service bus queue or a topic and just publish it to all the subscribers, you can do that. You can Azure Service Bus also has a trigger, like every time a message comes to your service bus, you can just trigger a task to do it. That's also possible. With Outlook, you can be notified whenever you get a new mail and perform a set of tasks. Like suppose I'm on leave and I want to send a mail every time I send a mail that I'm on leave for, from so-and-so date to so-and-so date to every mail that I receive. I can do that with this. I can write, I can use an action item to write a mail using logic app, this particular logic app connector. The same with SharePoint Online connector. I can work with SharePoint document list or the normal SharePoint list to manage it and modify content over there. So what are triggers? As I previously told you, triggers are the things which run when a particular event occurs. So this is basically a definition. A trigger is an event that occurs when a specific set of conditions is satisfied. Triggers activate automatically when conditions are met. So there are multiple types of triggers. Most of the connectors do have a trigger associated with them. Like the scheduled connector has a recurrence trigger associated with it, and the request connector has a when a HTTP request is received trigger. Same with Azure API management. Then there's one for Adobe Creative Cloud. I told you, right, we have many connectors. So Adobe is one of them. So the fun part is you can perform cross-cloud operations, though this feature is still in preview. But what if you wanted to run a task whenever a file has been uploaded in your S3 bucket? You can absolutely do it with your Azure Logic app. So the next is Azure Queue. Since so let's discuss briefly about types of triggers. So there are three kinds of triggers in a Logic app. One is a recurrence trigger. So these kind of triggers are pretty much often schedule-based jobs, cron jobs kind of a thing, to execute every 5 minutes or 10 minutes, whichever you have configured. Then these are polling triggers. Polling triggers are those kind of triggers which check every 10 minutes or 5 minutes if a condition is met. If the condition is met, then they will start with the workflow. Then there's a push trigger. Push triggers are moreover like HTTP triggered functions, to be honest. So every time an event occurs, or else they get a payload, or else they get a message that okay, this particular event has happened, and they'll just fire up. They don't wait, or they don't run on a schedule. So that was all about triggers. Let's get into actions. What are actions? An action is an operation that executes a task in your business process. So actions are anything. Any task that you do in your workflow in a Logic app is an action. So there are multiple actions. As I previously mentioned, an request connector has a response action, and an Azure function connector has a choose an Azure function action. So using this action, you can actually choose which Azure function you want to run to get a task done. Then you have a datetime connector that gives you a current time task. So this current time would get you the current time at the very moment when this workflow is running and executing this task. Then there's this get S3 object content connection. So in this connection, what happens is that you get the data from of that S3 object or else the file for whose which you want to get or for which you have specified the URL. Sorry. So the next is an create blob action. So this action lets you create and blob in the container or in the blob storage container which you actually wanted to create one. You can also start a web app. So there's an action to actually start a web app, stop a web app, restart a web app, and do many things. Now, you can also create a file in Box. So Box is a cloud storage service So you can also store it over there. Similar with Dropbox. So enough with all this theories. We people want the demos, right? So let's get started with the demo. So what will be the demo all about? So in this demo, we are going to build a workflow to send a mail. So let's go to Azure portal and create our first logic app. So let's go to portal, search for logic app. Let's click on create to create our logic app. Let's create a new resource group. Let's give it as RG ServerlessDays. Come on. I'm going to give it a South India. Let's give the name as logic app. And click. I'm not going to select integration service environment or enable log analytics, but I recommend you people to enable log analytics when you want to make some production grade workloads. So let's click on review and create. It will just validate if the things that we had mentioned are configured over there for this logic app is actually valid or not. If it is, then we are good to create it. Let's click on create, and it will start creating our logic app. So it's currently provisioning a logic app for us, and it's done. It's really quick. So let's go to the source. As I told you that we need to use a graphical tool called Logic App Designer to build our workflows in logic app. So this is the thing. So out of the box, you get a lot many templates. Just like when you create a project in Visual Studio, you get a lot of template out of the box. Similarly, you get a lot of template out of the box with the logic app designer. We will go with a blank logic app. So what we want to do here is that we want to create, we want to send a mail every time someone sends a request to our endpoint, sends a request to our API that we are going to build in this using this logic app, along with the mail and the username. You can consider it in multiple use cases. Like, see, I'm a community organizer, and we partner with multiple organizations who offer us vouchers or else coupons of the services. So what happens is that I need to send a mail to many participants. So I organize a raffle or else a quiz to distribute these coupons. So the thing is, I need to do this repetitive task every time. Like, I need to manually write these mails and have a template and just send it back with the coupon. So what I can do is that I can create an API over here, which will use the Outlook connector to send a mail. So what I need to do is I need to define the payload. So in the payload, what I'm going to do is I'm going to define two things. One is the name and the other is the email. So here's the name is Asharwad. The email as Asharwad. That's my mail ID. You can connect with me over there. Okay. So I just missed a comma. So what it's going to do is that based on the payloads that we gave over there, it's going to generate a request body JSON schema, and it will use that to get a response. So what we want to do here is we want to send a mail using the name and the email that was passed in the request body. So what we can do is that we can add an action. So this was a trigger, and now we'll be adding an action. So what will be the action? Since we want to send a mail, we are going to use the Outlook connector. Let's type in Outlook. You can see this Outlook.com, Outlook 365, so many things. You have so many actions over here. Let's see if we have any triggers. We don't have any. We have so many triggers for this connector. But we are bothered about the action. So how will we do this? How will we send a mail using the Outlook connector? Let's search for send mail action over here. Send an email. Let's click over here. So you need to sign in using your Outlook account over here. So you just need to click sign in over here. And I'm going to use this particular account of mine. Since I've already logged in, it didn't ask me to log in again. So you people can actually log in again. log in using your Outlook accounts, or else if you have a different mail ID, like if you have a Gmail account, you want to send a mail using a Gmail account, you can also do it with that. So I want to specify the email ID that I got in the request body itself, right? So if you see, we got some value in the dynamic content. Sometimes it doesn't show over here in the dynamic content, but if you click on see more, you will find it. So that's an email, right? So I'm going to specify the email over there. So these are variables. These variables are stored there. So with the help of the schema, it was able to identify what variables I was about to get from the request body. So I got the email. Let's type in the subject as congrats on winning vouchers. I don't have any vouchers now. I just say congrats and the name of the person. What's the name of the person? It does it in a payload. I don't know. It's a variable, right? So that's all. I just want to send a mail with the subject congrats on winning the voucher, and just give a congratulatory message called congrats, the name of the guy. Let's give back a response. Since the user is sending us a request, we need to give him back a response, right? So let's give him back a response that the mail successfully sent. Mail was sent. Like that. And click on save. When you click on save, you will get the endpoint of this particular API. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to copy this endpoint, and I'm going to open Postman. So let's wait a bit while Postman opens. In the meanwhile, if you people have any questions, just drop it off in the chat box, and we'll be getting back to that during the Q&A session. Okay, let's wait a bit more. Okay, let's create a new request over here. I'm going to add a new request. I'm going to send it as logic app demo. It's it over here. Just let me check whether it was a post. So set it as a post method. Define the content type as JSON. If you don't define it, you're going to get an error. The type as application JSON. And define the body as the schema that we had defined earlier. So I'm going to give it as name is Ashirwad, and the email is another email ID of mine that I use for demos. Okay, perfect. So let's click on send. The mail was sent. That was really quick. So let's go to my mail over here and see whether I got any mail. I'm going to refresh it back. I'm sorry, my mailbox is really cluttered. I should get the mail. Okay, I'm sorry. Just let me check. So we can check whether our logic app ran well or not by just going to the overview section and checking it on the run history. So let's refresh it over here. You can see that our API was called once, and we can see whether it executed successfully or not. If it did, then you're gonna get this red tick over here, and you can get the response over there. So as you can see, this is what the output we got. It was able to fetch the value that was passed in the request body. That was ashirwad.satpati@outlook.com, and Ashirwad input is this. Okay, let me send it to my other mail ID. Probably that would be helpful. I hope the demo goats are happy with me. And the mail was sent. Let me open my Gmail account and check whether I got any mail. Let me refresh it a bit. Did I? Or didn't I? Okay, there seems to be some issue here. Why isn't it sending the mails? I think it does take. Okay, we got the mail. The demo happened well. This was the subject that we wanted, and it's the message that we wanted, right? So that's great. So we are done with the first demo. We were able to send a response and a mail. That's cool, right? We were able to make an API without doing anything, without writing any lines of code. So let's get back to the slides and look at the problem statement that we are trying to solve today. We are working at a startup which has a task of collecting people's view on various government schemes and social welfare programs. We want to get people's view from the ground level, like are they satisfied with the government schemes or not? So once you do that, you have a fleet of employees who have been gathering information from the people, and they make reports out of it. And you use this reports to process and get feedbacks and insights from insights to see whether the people are actually interested in the schemes that the government is running or not. We have a centralized document storage system in an Azure Blob storage. And of late, we came to know that the reports are written in different languages. India is a very, very different country, to be honest. We have more than 20 officially recognized languages. So some people in some part would be speaking a different language than some people in the other part. Like some people can be speaking Hindi, some may be speaking Odia, some may be speaking Bengali, some can be speaking Marathi, Tamil, Kannada. There are so many languages. So the problem was that the people at the ground level were writing repos on the using the language of that particular region. So it was getting really tough for us to get insights from that. So what we did was that we hired a few people who can translate those things back into English, so that we can gather some insights from this data, right? We don't want to throw this data. We have invested a lot of resource and money into it. But prior to assigning the report, we need to classify the reports in the language they are written in, because a single person cannot know all these languages. We have only officially recognized languages, right? Not a single person can never learn all the 20 languages. I'm not saying can never, but it is really difficult for a person to know all the 20 languages, right? So we wanted to build a solution to classify this document into the language they are written in. And once they are classified, these people can just pick up from the folder and just start translating them back into English. But the problem is we want to build the solution in a highly scalable way, and we don't have many developers in our team to we can dedicate a lot of time and resource to get this solution up and ready. So how would we achieve this? Let's solve this. We are going to do it using a logic app. So let's go back to home, to our Azure portal, create a new logic app to solve this. Okay, before creating the logic app, we need to create a storage account. We'll be using the storage account to store our documents. Let's create a new storage account. I have it on my RG Serverless demo. I want to keep it there. Serverless. I hope this name is not taken. Great, perfect. Let's click on review and create to create it. Validation succeed, and click on create. Let's create it. Once it is created, we will be creating two containers over there. So in the first container, we'll be storing our files, right? So we'll be storing our files over there. In the meanwhile, let's create our documents. So let's use Google Translate to translate our text, translate English to Hindi. I'll say hi there. I'll just, in the meanwhile, create a document, a plain text file. Serverless demo. And just open it, and what I'll do is I will just copy this particular thing from over here and store it over here and click on save. Similarly, I'll just copy and create multiple files of it. And what I'll do is I'll just write English out there. Oh, sorry. And the first copy, I'm gonna paste hi there, the English version. Then since we are live from Amsterdam, let's put it on Dutch. I hope that this is the official language of Netherlands, right? So I'm just gonna put it and I'm making a copy of it. Okay, so we have 3 documents ready. So I hope that our resource is also created. So the resource is provisioned. Let's create a container. So this container is our centralized document system where we store all our documents. So document system. So this is the document system, and let's click on create. So once we click on create, we need to upload all our files over here. So let's upload our files one by one. So one is serverless, right? Serverless demo text. Let's open it and click on upload to upload this file. Then let's click on the other one, copy to open, upload. Then let's upload the final one. Then let's click on upload to upload it. So we have uploaded all our files. Let's create the other container to classify it. So this container name would be classifier or classified documents. Let's keep the container name as classified documents. And let's not upload anything. We'll use our logic app to do it for us. So this container has nothing. So let's go to the portal again and create a logic app to classify our documents that are there in our blob storage containers. Logic app. Let's click on logic app. Create. Let's name it. Let's select the resource group as logic app serverless serverless demo, ServerlessDays demo, and let's keep it as document classifier. So the name is not taken. We can take it. So let's get the region as South India. Let's click on review and create it quickly since we have pretty less time to get a demo up and running. I hope we don't fall back into any errors. The resource is created. Let's go to the resource. Let's automatically will be redirected to our logic app designer. So let's create a blank logic app. Then what we wanted to do is that we want to run a schedule, and all our employees will be dumping their files, their reports in this container every day, and we want to run a scheduler which should just pick up everything at one point a day, or else every 6 hours or 4 hours, to pick all the files that are there in the blob, then translate it and put in their respective, put in a folder inside the document classifier document container in a folder of the respective languages. Like if I have a document that's written in English, it will create a folder called English inside the container and put all the files that are written in English inside that. If there is something that's written in Dutch, it will create a folder called Dutch and put all the files inside this particular folder called Dutch of the container. So I hope I'm making sense. So let's click on scheduler. So scheduler is the connector that we are using. Scheduler is the connector that we are going to use. So we are going to use a recurrence trigger. And I told you, we don't need to define cron expressions over here. So what is an interval? So an interval is the time span after which our app should run. Like if I'm giving the interval as 45 and frequency as minute, then this logic app would run every 45 minutes. But since we cannot afford to wait for 45 minutes to get to see the demo or get the look and feel of the demo, I'm going to keep it as seconds. So we have defined the schedule. Now what we want to do is that we want to get all the files that are there inside the container of our blob storage. So to get that, I'm going to use the Azure Blob Storage connector and use an action called list blobs. This list blob would ask us to create a connection name. Document, let's create the name as document classify or document classifier, and let's select the storage account which we just created. So this demo serverless, let's click on create. It'll create a connection for us. So once we have created connection, you have to define the folder. The folder is nothing but the container. So here the source folder would be document system. Inside of this particular container, we have all our files. We'll be dumping all our reports, and we'll be taking it from there to classify on the basis of an language and put it inside the classified document container. So we got all we'll be getting a list of all the blobs that are present inside the particular container. So what would be the next step? The next step would be to run an for each loop and get the container, get the content of each of those blob, then use the detect language API or action of the text analytics cognitive service connector to do our task. So we are going to loop through all the blob that is present over there. So I'm going to use this particular value that is available to me, or that was given back as a result from this particular list blob action. So I'm going to loop through that, right? So what I'm going to do over here is that I'm going to use another action of the blob storage connector, thus get blob content. So what will this action do? This action will get me all the content of the blob. So I need to specify the blob over here. What I'm going to do is that I'm going to specify the path of the content. So while iterating to the blob, while iterating to the blob, you get access to all its metadata, content, and everything. So the path has a URI for blob content for the particular blob we are iterating through. So this path will give the URL of the particular blob. So this action will be using that to get the content from the blob. So once we get the content, now I need to detect the language. How will I do that? I'll use the text analytics connector, then use the detect language action to do that. So before doing that, you need to create a text analytics resource. I have one already created. So let's go to Azure portal again. Just give me a minute, please bear with me. So I have a cognitive resource here. This is a text analytics resource, and I have provisioned it quite before some time. So I'm going to copy the endpoint from over here. I'm going to paste it on the site URL. Then I'm going to copy the API key, and I'm going to paste it over here. Then give it the name like text analytics. Let's keep it as detect demo. I have created a connection. So now it will ask me to give a few parameters, like I need to add a document parameter. So while parsing through this content, this particular action considers each content as a document, and you need to classify document ID. So the document ID would be the ID of a document, which is unique across for all the blobs. So you need to define this ID, or else it's not going to work well. Now here you need to give the file content. So I want to use the file content that was given by the get blob content action. As you can see, you can get the value of different action item, like the list blob action gave you results like ID, name, display name, and lot many things, while get blob action gave you only one, that file content. So I am concerned about this particular file content from the get blob content action. So after I get that, it will give me an array of detected languages. So I need to again parse through that. To parse through them, I need to again run a for each loop to go through them. So I'm going to click on control, then I'm going to select for each action. So now what I need to do is that I need to parse through the detected languages. So once I go through the detected languages, I need to put up an action over here, and since I want to classify and store it in a different container, I want to create a new blob in a different container with a folder name and create this folder inside a folder name of the language. What I need to do is I'm going to have to use the Azure Blob Storage connector again, then use the create blob action, then define the container, I'm using an existing connection. That's why it's not asking me to do it. If you want to change it, you can change it again if you wanted to connect to a different storage account. But since I'm using the same storage account for this demo, so we are good to go with this connection itself. So let's select the container as classified documents and give the blob name as, Azure Blob Storage doesn't has any folder structure. It doesn't support, this nomenclature of folder and subdirectories and all. So what we can do is that before our blob name, if you give a name of the folder and, it's more like folder name / blob name. If you do it like this, it will make a logical partition in which, you will see a folder. If you click on that, you'll find all the blobs which has this particular thing prefixed with them. So what we'll do is this, we'll keep the folder name as language. As you can see, the detect language action gave a few, returned a few values. So one of them is language ID and language code. So since we want the language directly, I'm going to click on name. Then I'm going to do it with a / and keep it as the name of our blob. So what was the blob name? So you can get it from the list blob, right? So I'm going to put it as name over here that I got from my list blob action. And I am gonna pass it with .tx. No, it's not required probably. So we need to define the blob content because we also want to store the content, right? We don't want to lose the data that was there inside the report, because at the end of the day, the people which we whom we have hired to translate the whole document need the content present inside the document, right? So we need to define the document. So that's all for this demo. Let's click on save and let's wait for 45 seconds to see this workflow up and running. Let's go back to the document classifier logic app overview and click on refresh to see the run history. Okay, it did run once. Let's see steps and their outputs. So it happened once. Okay, I'm gonna disable for the timing, or else it's gonna run it multiple times. So you can enable and disable in logic app by just clicking it over here. So let's go over here again and see what were the outputs. So which language did it detect? So here you're gonna see the language of the last document that it passed, or the last blob it processed. So it was able to detect the language and create a blob. So what we'll do is that we'll go back to the storage account to find the container and see whether it created the files as we wanted it to or not. So this was the storage account, demo serverless. Let's click on containers to go over there. There are two containers. Let's go to the classified documents. If you see, it has classified the documents on the basis of the language and a folder structure. Though this blob doesn't support any subdirectory kind of a thing. But let's see, since it's a touch, I'm gonna download it and it's up for you people to see whether it did it right. And it was completely dependent on Google Translate over here. So yes, it did. If I go with Google Translate. So let's see, let's go back and see whether it was able to classify English correctly or not. I'm gonna download it again and open it up. And yes, it did. So that's all for the demo. Let's go back to the Q&A session. I hope you people like the demo. So that was all from my end.
Thanks, Shiva. That was really, really interesting. Do you have, we have one question, I think, at least. So you still have time for that?
Sure.
Awesome. So the question, and I think it came probably from multiple people, was that is it possible to create those logic apps with code? So maybe declaratively in an automated way? And if yes, what are your options and your limitations and just things that you have to keep in mind?
So what happens is that under the hood, these logic apps are actually JSON schemas kind of a thing. So you can just modify the JSON structure over there and get it done. So as I mentioned that you can just export the ARN templates and reuse it anywhere write once and reuse multiple times, you can absolutely do that. And secondly, you don't need to go, you don't have to go to the Azure portal itself to actually make a logic app. You can make one using Visual Studio or else Visual Studio Code. So that's also a possibility.
Awesome, that's great. Do you have any? Do you have what you showed us in any kind of summary or repository? Anything that you can give us as a resource?
Not right now, but I'll definitely share it with you by tomorrow.
Oh, it's not a homework, so that's fine. If you have something, that's great. Maybe just share your slides with us also, so we can take a look at it.
Sure, I'll send it with you.
Cool. And so if there are no more questions, just one last thing that I would ask you, like, if there's one thing you want people to take away from this, what's the thing about Azure Logic Apps that you feel like people absolutely need to take home?
The thing is, you can easily get stuff done. You don't need to code things and do all the heavy lifting by yourself to get things done. These things can be done really easily with Logic Apps. So you just drag and drop things and get things up and running, right? Why do you need to spend so many time? You are an organizer, and I am also an organizer. Sometimes we give things on raffle, right? Or we organize quiz to give away things. Manually mailing all this stuff is really tedious. Instead, you can just run a Logic app and give it a JSON string in the request body, within the request payload, and it will just get things done. You don't need to worry about that.
Right. So at some point, they don't need us anymore either, because we're just going to be replaced by JSON files.
See, we are the people who are going to write those JSON files. So we are there.
Good point. Andrea, do you have more questions? Anything you want to add?
No. I think the question that come through my mind was also about automating this process. So yeah, I think that was answered.
Cool.
The funny part is, if you have a flow chart, you can directly, convert it into a Logic app. It's really simple. If you have any conditions in the flow chart, you just have a task and you do it.
I love your energy. Love how excited you are about this. Awesome. So will you be able to hang out with us a little bit on Discord? Because I saw you sneaking in there some other time. So
Yeah,
if there
I
are
was there
more
before yesterday.
Yeah, if there are more questions, put them on Discord, and Ashwat will take the time to chat with you about it.
Definitely.
Awesome. Thank you so much for your talk. And also, if you're interested to talk more with Ashwat or help him out with his Serverless Days meetup, if you spoke at our meetup and you want a new audience, this is your
We'd
man.
love to have you people.
Fantastic. All right.
Okay.
So thanks again. And we are going to take a break until 7:05. So it's going to be a 7-minute break now. Go, do your thing, get some drinks, and we'll see you back at 7:05.
Hey, welcome back.
Hey.
So we're done with the break, and we have our next speaker, which will be Tatenda from South Africa. So one greeting from for the online meets, right? Tatenda is an AWS community builder. Hi, Tatenda. And he's also an organizer of the CDK Day. I'm working with CDK and serverless, and I'm really curious about your talk today. So if you can introduce your talk, and please go ahead.
Okay.
We will drop out and let you present.
Okay.
I think
cool.
you need to also share your screen.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Cool. Just give me a second. I'm just gonna try share my screen now.
No worries. In the meantime, Andra, what is the thing about CDK that you're interested in most?
I would like to see how I can improve my way of working with serverless with CDK. CDK, it's a great tool, and I think that then I will get more into it about what it is and what is it actually doing. But working with serverless and CDK is like a great tool. Like you only need like one language. You only need Python, and you can deploy things.
Yeah, definitely. Okay.
Yeah, super exciting.
Let's learn
one
more
more
from
thing.
Tatenda.
Yeah, one more thing, Tatenda. Can you press that hide? So there's this.
Sorry.
No worries.
My bad.
No,
okay, can you see
don't
my
worry
screen?
about it. Yes, we can see your screen. Everything's good.
Okay. So my name is Tatenda. I'm based in South Africa. I'm a AWS community builder. I'm also organizer of Ctk Day, which is kind of an annual event that we started doing last year. So last year I was a speaker there, and then this year I got to be part of the organizers as well. So I have like about 1 year AWS experience. That's how kind of like how long I've been working with AWS. So my talk today is basically gonna be like serverless with AWS CDK. So it's more like of a personal story on how I got started with serverless as well as AWS CDK. Okay. So here's kind of a spoiler of what the things that we're going to go through. It's pretty much not that much. We'll do an intro and getting started, and then I'll talk about CTK in the serverless world, kind of my personal story, and then a demo. Hopefully it works. And then I'll have some extra resources and conclusions, and then hopefully a question and answer if anyone has got a question. So this is just the fundamental of CTK. So what is CTK? It's a software development framework for defining your cloud infrastructure. You're provisioning your resources specifically in the AWS cloud using a programming language of your choice. At the moment, it supports a variety of languages like C#, Golang, JavaScript, Java, as well as Python. I'm more versed with Python, so this talk is going to be a bit in Python. I'm going to speak a lot about Python in this talk. So when you're getting started with CTK, some familiarity with CloudFormation is also is very useful because in the background, if you define your resources using Python or any programming language of your choice, that's a bit supported, of course. And the back is going to utilize CloudFormation as a provisioning engine, as well as whatever resources that you define using a programming language will synthesize to a CloudFormation template. So I guess you'll see this later on when we're doing the demo. So another thing is like for you to get started with CDK, you need to be proficient in one programming language. I think I've already mentioned this, but like even though you are not quite proficient in a programming language, you're kind of just getting started to learn at least a programming language that is supported. That's great as well. So to declare resources in CloudFormation in CDK, you use classes which are provided by the Ctk libraries. You can also use your custom resources as well. Like we'll see this in the following up if it doesn't make sense now. For example, this is how you would go about creating a bucket using Ctk from a predefined Ctk class. So that is pretty much what you have to do for you to get through to deploy buckets, and then you run a command called Ctk deploy, and this will go about and create your resources in the clouds. And Ctk would translate this code. This is in Python, and then you translate this code into a CloudFormation template, and then it will deploy it on AWS for you. I will see this next. Okay, I'm just gonna skip this slide as well. So my talk really was about Ctk in the serverless world. So this is kind of what I was meant when I say this is kind of a personal story. So myself, I can you guys hear me? Not sure if people can hear me. You hear me? Oh, okay, awesome. I thought like people can't hear me. Awesome, that's awesome. So as I was saying, my personal story now, I get started with the Cdk. So I started off with Cdk because I came from a non-developer background. So I wanted to learn cloud computing, AWS to be specific, and I also wanted to learn like a programming language. So this is like about a year ago, and then so when presented with the option of defining my cloud resources, I had a variety of options like CloudFormation or Terraform, but like CloudFormation always kind of looked scary for me. I don't know if anyone else can relate to this, but for me it's a bit of a pain. So this was the idea for me to like learn a language that I could use to do my whether to build my application, to build up the infrastructure for my applications, as well as build up my application. So Python seemed like to be less scarier for that. So that's why I went that route, and I've always liked building serverless application. Another thing why I went with Ctk is that, in my view, when I compared it with other infrastructure as code tools, it looked more of a general purpose. I'm speaking about like AWS natively. AWS tools for infrastructure as code like SAM or CloudFormation. To me, they seemed a bit limited in their capabilities. Well, I can't say this for CloudFormation, but looked a bit scary. But something like the serverless framework, AWS SAM, looked a bit limited to a specific purpose only. For example, SAM would really excel when building serverless applications. So CDK looked a bit more like a general purpose infrastructure as code tool. So that's another reason why I went with CDK. Okay, so next up, I'm just gonna try to do a demo. Let's hope it works. I tried to make a slide there, but anyway, I hope this works out. I have a small confession to make. There's the demo that I prepared I wanted to do actually didn't quite work. Like, so I've been troubleshooting it for the whole time, but like I'm sure I'm gonna come up with something. So I'm just gonna quickly move over to my terminal here and clear the screen. Deactivate. Right. I cloned the repository of Ctk examples here. You can find this on GitHub. I'll share the link after the talk. So I'm just gonna pick a random example here that I can just use as a demonstration. I'm just gonna go for the Python examples. Let's see. There's different examples here. Lambda S3 trigger. This is serverless. I'm just gonna go with that. Lambda S3 trigger. Okay, awesome. Just gonna see what's inside this file. Okay. It looks like here is our lambda handler. It's inside here. So this is like the basic structure of a Ctk application. You have your, for example, if you're building like a serverless application, I'm not sure if you can get away with building a serverless application without involving lambda somehow. But in general, like you would have something like your lambda handler and inside the lambda folder, and then you also have this app.py file, which is where your Ctk oh my word. Okay, you basically have this app.py file, and then you also have your requirements file. This requirements file, I'm sure if you have worked with like Python before, you know what this does, but in this case, it just a file which contains all the requirements for you to like run your application. So I'm just going to try and deploy this, and then maybe we can see it deploying live in the AWS console or in CloudFormation. Let me just try to run this. So there are a few commands that I kind of created a notepad here for like a few commands that I would need here. So I'm just going to copy this. This is just to create my virtual environment. All right, and then I'm just gonna activate my virtual environment so that I can work in a virtual environment. Okay. Right. Okay. Now, so to deploy Ctk application, like I showed earlier, you run the command Ctk. But actually, before that, like what is this? So I forgot to mention here in the stack.py application is where like you go ahead and define your application logic and the resources that you're going to define. So for example here, here's how you'd go ahead and create a lambda function in Ctk. It's just relatively a few lines of Python code. Here's how you'd go about creating your S3 bucket. I'm not sure how much time I have, so I'm kind of moving really fast. So if it doesn't make sense right now, I'm gonna share some few resources at the end, which you probably can read further ahead, and you can probably, if you are kind of interested in this, you understand more. I'm just going to try and deploy this. Just going to run the Ctk synthesize command. So if you run this command, this command is going to generate plenty of lines of cloud formation. So all these lines of cloud formation kind of equate to just this. So probably this would make a definite argument why you would probably want to go ahead and use Ctk, because if you've written some cloud formation, you probably know how painful this would be to write. Probably writing YAML, or if you are skilled writing all this in JSON, that would probably be not easy. But I'm not saying that Ctk is kind of like the panacea of infrastructure as code. I mean, every tool has its weaknesses and every tool has its strength. But for me personally, like Ctk is relatively still a new tool, but and it's maturing and being developed all the time. And I see like this is kind of like the future of infrastructure as code. So I'm just going to try and deploy the Ctk deploy, right? It's going to give us something like a security warning. Yeah. It's going to kind of give us the security warning here. I don't quite of the changes that are going to happen in our account. So there's kind of really no option of saying no. You just kind of have to say yes for this to work. And then you to start deploying us to create a cloud formation change set, and then to start deploying our resources. So maybe if we do try to come to the AWS console, where is it? Oh my word. Okay, I need to find this. Where is Chrome? I'm just gonna exit this. Oh, here's Chrome. Okay, awesome. I'm just gonna try and log into my console here. I'm just gonna log into my console here, and maybe you can see this. You can also see it here. It kind of shows the resources that it's creating as well, so you can watch it here as well. But I would just want to show you guys in kind of like in CloudFormation, this happening live. So I kind of didn't specify the region here, but I'm kind of defaulted my CLI to US East 1, so that's probably where it's gonna go. Don't judge me for using my root account here. My DN 36 open npfm. What? Okay. Oh boy. This thing is really having it with me. N8E5MA. Okay, awesome. Finally in. I hope it's not done. Oh, it's actually done. Now, I wanted us to see this live in CloudFormation, but it's fine, I guess. We can always see the resources that it deployed. Also is S3 trigger, and then if we come here to resources, and then you can kind of see it went ahead and created Lambda function and IAM role, IAM policy, an S3 bucket, some permissions here and there. So this is basically what this went ahead and created for us in CloudFormation. And if we go maybe to click one of these, this here is going to take us to the Lambda console, and then we can see this Lambda that it created for us here. So where are my slides? Okay. So that was just a quick demo just that I wanted to show. My bad, because the demo that I wanted to show didn't quite work on time. But like this, what I just wanted to show quickly, and then so yeah, I like a few resources that you can go ahead and look at if you want to. If this kind of interests you. I don't know if I sold it well, but CDK is something that kind of fascinates me. So you can go ahead to this GitHub repo here. You can find some simple applications that you can use as a starting point, and then you can always mix and adapt to your own architectures to see if this can save you quite some time. Yeah. As well as this is kind of one of my favorite things to go. This is an API reference for CDK. It's well documented. If you want to read more about CDK construct libraries and etc. etc. And then this is kind of one of my favorite talks on YouTube as well. It's by folks from AWS called Elad. He's kind of like he's an developer advocate for AWS dev tools. So that's pretty much it for me. But in general, like most of the stuff that I just showed you here, it's stuff that I taught myself kind of because I don't quite work with CDK or AWS directly in my day-to-day, but it's mostly stuff that I find interesting with AWS, so I kind of teach myself, and then that's how I kind of discover the stuff. And then lastly, like probably this is a shameless plug, but we're having a CDK day on the 30th of April, and you can grab your tickets here. They are free, yeah, and then you can come join like the whole of the CDK community out there from different parts of the world. And there's more talks that will be shared during CDK Day, probably more detailed, and it's kind of an event that we try to balance up like our talks. Like we try to accommodate everyone, whether it's someone that's just getting started or someone who's more experienced, who's just looking to get more experience with these things. So with that, that's pretty much it for me. That's all I kind of wanted to speak about. So thank you, guys.
Great. Thank you, Tatenda.
Stop sharing my screen.
So we don't have any questions at the moment. But yeah, I wanted to ask you if you think that somebody maybe with a more of a developer background could actually learn CDK like very easy or more easily than somebody with no experience at all. What do you think?
Personally, I think someone with a developer background, I think this is kind of like something that would be easy for them to pick up because they are probably familiar with most of the programming principles, because like CDK is a lot of abstractions and mostly like stuff like object-oriented programming would kind of help if you kind of have a background in that. So if someone is already has a developer background, I would highly like recommend them to have a look at CDK, and if they don't like it, that's fine. But like it's something that I would think would make your work probably much easier, because if you're a developer, you're working with abstractions each and every day. So it would make it simpler for you to kind of just combine everything together, probably in one language or two.
Yeah, awesome. So, Lian, do you have any questions for Tatenda?
How's the CDK day going? I would be interested about that. Like, what led you to start that? How do you feel about it?
The CDK day. So what actually happened with CDK day is last year, I think the fourth quarter of last year, with the that was the first event. That was my first time giving a talk like publicly. I think I'm an introvert, and like this is my second time, by the way. So that was the first time I gave. Yeah, that was like the first time like I gave a talk, and then I just submitted my CF when the CFP opened there, and then kind of got selected, and then I gave my talk there. So when I submitted my talk initially, I had no idea what Ctk is actually. Like I had an idea, but I've actually never used it. And like the CFP was closing within like 2 weeks, so it was kind of me kind of drinking from a fire. Was for me just to have something to speak about during the event. So that's when I started learning like Ctk, and then I started following like the community like on Twitter. I joined the Slack channel, and then like this year. Then they decided to make another day, a Ctk day, and then like I kind of volunteered to be one of the organizers as well there, and I was welcomed into the community. And then so it's pretty much about us. Ctk day is pretty much about getting people from different experiences, from different backgrounds, and we try to promote as much diversity as much as we can, so that people can come and speak up, share their experiences with Ctk. Can share like some tips and how they've been using Ctk to deploy their infrastructure. So it's pretty much a community that wants to bring people who are working with Ctk together, because Ctk is probably still a fairly new tool. It's probably not as mature as tools like Terraform, which have been out there for probably a while now. So that's what Ctk Day is all about, just bringing people from different backgrounds, different experiences together, and have a talk and share whatever information and knowledge that they have about Ctk.
Awesome. Sounds amazing. Can you share all the links on Twitter? So we can like join Ctk Day and follow you and all of that.
Yeah. Should I share on Twitter?
I think there was a question if you could share the links on Twitter, but like share them everywhere.
Okay.
I'm still amazed that this was your second talk, because it was a really, really good talk.
Oh, thank you.
Well done.
Like this, I was nervous. Like this is the second time. I'm not really used to public. I started speaking like publicly during the pandemic, so all my talks have been like online. I'm not sure if we return to the probably normal, if I'm gonna be able to like sit in front of an audience, and probably awkward as well when you're speaking like here, because you don't get any response to know how it's going. You don't know whether you're doing bad or you're doing good. So like, yeah, but this is my second time I'm speaking publicly.
Wow, but you did very well.
Thank
I'm
you.
sure that people thought that was really good. So don't worry about it. Especially like live demos are always like, I applaud you for attempting a live demo. I don't even try that anymore, because it's just like I would probably cry.
Yeah, like I always hear people complaining about them, and like I had a demo that I wanted to do. It was so cool. Well, that's my opinion, but like it didn't work, so I had to troubleshoot it like all the whole time. So like I ended up just looking for something else, because I thought it was pretty cool what I wanted to do, but it didn't work. So it was gonna.
Yeah, but you kept your cool. Like it didn't work, and you were like, okay, moving on. So I mean, I think I would have probably just started crying.
No, like I think for me personally, like the last time I did Cdk Day, Marek was part of the organizing committee, so he was kind of like the person who was mentoring me for my talk. So I think like he taught me like a lot of things on how to handle like these online talks. And I think the other thing that helped me is like because I wasn't sure if I was going to be able to speak, but I did kind of watch like the previous videos of ServerlessDays Amsterdam, just to kind of gauge how the environment is like, how the people are like, so that I could probably understand if I could probably be comfortable like speaking. Then when I did watch, I was so like it's kind of a very welcoming community. So I thought, why not? Let me just try and give it a shot and see how it goes.
That's awesome. Oh, thank you very much for joining us. It was great to have you.
Thank you for having me.
Sure.
Thanks.
Cool. Andra, so how was your first time hosting Serverless Days? How did you like it?
So I was nervous, of course, but yeah, I think as Tatenda said, the community is really welcoming, and yeah, I feel like it was good. It was okay.
Okay,
I had a
maybe.
nice experience. So yeah, thank you for like really teaching me a lot of stuff. So and allowing me for being part of the community that matters.
I am so touched. You're welcome. I mean, thank you for helping out. And, we always are looking for more people to help out, because the more people help, the less every one of us has to do stuff. So I barely did anything this time around. I just told you, please do this, please do that. So that's what it was. And you really did most of the work. So thank you very much for that. I think it went really well. So really happy to have you on board. And also the speakers, thank you so much to the speakers, Ashivat and Tatenda, for appearing in this very international version of Serverless Days Amsterdam. And if you want to also speak, or you want to help organizing, or you have any other ideas, if you are a first-time speaker or second-time speaker, and you're nervous, get in touch with us. We're happy to help you, mentor you, give you some feedback. You can run your test presentation with us together. We just I really could relate to what Tatenda said about the diversity, hearing other people's voices, and that's what we really want to do. And if you feel nervous about it, then still get in touch with us, and we'll help you out. So Amsterdam@serverlessdays.io, or on Twitter serverlessdms, or on Discord. And that's where we're gonna hang out for a little bit more, maybe have a drink with the speakers, and we'll see each other next session, which will be the first Wednesday of the month again. So again, so I'm seeing now that Tatenda is extending an extra thanks to Andra, who was super supportive and helpful, for sure. So thanks a lot for everyone. Stace, you want to also join us here on stage? Stace was the technical lead today. You muted Stacy. Oh no. Just one technical thing.
Rookie mistake. Good evening.
Hi. Thanks for helping today.
You're more than welcome. It's always fun to do, even when I make mistakes like that.
It's fine. No one minds. We're all just trying to have a good time. So what else? Okay. So thanks all for joining us, and see you again in the next session, first Wednesday of May.
May already. Wow.
Yeah,
Bye.
I know.
Bye.
Bye.